Good start. Howdy, howdy, everybody, and welcome back to Stranded Deep in Conversation, where I rant about crud that I like to rant about. What did they... Was that bar down there always there? Peculiar. Either way, forget about the game. That's not what we're here for. We're here to talk, we're here to jive, we're here to just exist together as people. So, with that, let's just jump straight into everyone's favorite segment, This Week in Retail. Only one thing happened that was pretty crazy or notable, and really anyway. And that was the fact that I locked my... So, I guess we should set up some preface for the story. I was doing some stuff that involved paperwork, and I was getting the paperwork out of the office, but I don't have keys to the office, so I had to use my manager's keys to the office, and this is towards the end of the day, so, he hands me his keys, and I'm like, cool, rad, thank you, and I go into the office, I grab all the paperwork, I'm like, cool, and I leave the office, and first I noticed that the paperwork isn't really printed on the right paper, so I'm like, oh, okay, but it still has all the stuff it needs, so I don't think anyone's gonna really care. But as I'm about to put everything together and get it all set up, I noticed something. Hey, where did I put those keys? Because normally I'd put them in my pocket, or I'd leave them the ring around my finger, so that way I'd remember to bring them out. Because if you don't have a spare, there is no spare key. Otherwise, I wouldn't ask my manager for his key, and I ever. So, I go in, to, the door of the office where there's, a little window, and I peek through it, and I just barely see on the side table next to the printer the keys. And at this point, my manager doesn't actually know that this has happened. In fact, he never knew, and he never will know, because something that happened, this actually surprisingly happens fairly frequently. And also, last week, I did it with one of my supervisors, where I locked their keys into the room. I felt really stupid, but either way, we all do it, because we're all idiots. And what that supervisor showed me, the last time, well, they didn't show me, but they were doing it, and I was kind of just watching them do it. I thought it was cool. Was they managed to just break into the office using a pair of scissors, because they've locked themselves out of that office so many times that they've had to learn how to break into it, and so they use the scissors because how the lock works is just kind of a big wedge door lock thing. When you close the door, it pushes into the little hole, but there's two little prong things that if you can push down, you can kind of push the entire thing and and open the door. And so they would do that with the scissors. And I'm like, okay, that sounds easy enough. I bet I can do that. Case in point, yes, surprisingly enough, I was able to do it. It took so long. And I got so lucky, too, because, I started doing this, and it was pretty clear that I was being very frantic about it. 'Cause I didn't want my manager to know that I locked his keys in, because I don't know if he knew how to break into the office, and I didn't want to be the one to find out. So I was like, okay, if I can just get this done, I can do it. And I was panicking, so I didn't really know what I was doing. I'm surprised that I managed to even figure it out, but it was just a disaster. And luckily, I saw him walking up toward away from where he was working on something, and I was like, oh god, he's gonna come grab his keys and go to the office. Nope, he went for a smoke break, and I got so lucky. And so then I had just enough time to take a breath and kind of finagle it and figure out how it actually works. Because before I was just kind of pushing the scissors down into it, just jamming it, trying to make it work, but I didn't really know what I was doing. So it took some time to figure it out. And little under 30 seconds before he came back in, I managed to get it open, and I was like, oh, thank Christ. I grabbed the keys, I made sure I had the keys, and I left. So that was just, it felt like something out of like a freaking comedy show or like some sort of Mission Impossible bit where like, oh, dude, I gotta, I gotta get the keys before this bomb explodes, or like a saw trap or something. It just felt suspenseful. Everything about the situation was suspenseful as hell. But yeah, that was pretty much the only thing because nothing really topped that. Like, I mean, today a coworker brought in this really good like cream cheese dip thing, and we kind of just ate that throughout the day. But that's honestly like the closest thing to compare to that, at least in terms of my remembering of it, because I didn't really remember just about anything else that happened this week. So yeah, so I guess this just brings us into our topic for today, the main topic, which is drum roll. I don't have the. I'm gonna keep those drums next to me. One day I'll do it, but not today, because today we're talking about crazy Uber stories. Everyone, I think, at this point has used an Uber before, which is very bizarre. Because if you had asked me that like a couple of years ago, I would have never used Uber or like trusted Uber or done anything with Uber because I wouldn't. I never really liked using Uber. I never liked the idea of it. I always thought it was just a suspicious thing. These like, random people driving me in their cars. That's stupid. I'd rather have this random person drive me in this company car that they can charge me whatever the hell they want for. You know? Sounds like a plan to me. That's what I did. And that's what my family did. Until we were like, you know what? Uber's pretty cool. Uber's pretty cool. Uber's pretty cool. And you know what? It is. I gotta say. However, obviously, you're getting a bunch of different random people every time. So obviously you're gonna get a bunch of different random bullshit happening. And one of those things, for me, anyway, was, of course, yeah, so, just mayhem. Just absolute mayhem. And I start sentences, and like, but I never really know where exactly I'm going with them. So I have to stop myself and actually think. I have 5 stories in particular written down that we'll go over. If I think of any more, I'll go through it. But these are like probably the main 5 that I could ever really bring up. So with that, we'll start off with um one of the big ones. Picture this, all right? You just worked an 8-hour day, 2 to 10 at wherever it is you work. Let's say you don't drive. In fact, you don't know how. It's not just because you can't afford a car to save your life, but you just don't know how to drive, so you don't bother. So you're like, hey, you know what? It's like 9:30. I'll order a car because, it's also the middle of winter. It's really cold outside. Like, you can feel the cold coming in through the windows and the cracks in the door. Every time the door opens, you feel it. You can you know it's cold outside. So you're like, you know what? I don't really want to walk home. Walking home takes like an hour. I'd rather just get home in like 5 minutes through car. And yeah, you know what? If it's Uber, it's Uber. What are you gonna do? And so you set up an Uber, and your coworker who also doesn't drive is making sure constantly that you're getting it, and that it's happening, and that it's existing. And as far as you're concerned, if someone just picked up, like the moment you put it down, he'll be there at 10:02. 2 minutes after you close is perfect. It's the perfect dream. You'll be outside for a little bit, but generally speaking, you're gonna be fine. And so you think, if I should say. So you think. Because let me tell you something. Alright? That did not go. This whole situation, imagine that it was you, but you're imagining it. It was me. Alright, this is something that happened to me. I was working. I was jerking, but not off because I was at work. But yeah, so So this was me. This is a situation that happened to me. Obviously, it's my story. But so we roll down as the time goes from like 9:30 to 10. The car goes from like it's getting closer. It's like 18 minutes, 16 minutes, 15 minutes, and it goes back to like 16, 18, 21, 24, and I'm like, what's happening here? And by the time it hits 10:02 or 10 o'clock, we're getting ready to leave, and we do leave. It still says he's like 17 minutes away, and you're just like, well, what do I do about this? And he's not responding to you, because why would it? And also, for whatever reason, Uber is just glitching, and it won't let you friggin' just ask questions. Because, Shadoy, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Okay, hold on. Sorry, I'm upset. Okay, but yeah, so they're not picking up. You're just trying to make stuff work, and it's not. And your coworker asks if everything's fine. You naively assume, oh yeah, it's great. I mean, how could it be going bad? You have a car still kind of coming, and also you don't really want your coworker to worry about you. Or I didn't want my coworker to worry about me. So I didn't tell them that the car was still 20 minutes away. I told them, hey, it'll be fine. I'll be here soon. And they go towards their home because they live pretty close as well. And so they just head on home, which is good. Good for them. You don't feel any. I don't feel anything like negative towards them because they weren't the Uber driver who was screwing me. All right. So what happened? Some of you may be asking. How do you keep swapping the perspective of this story? You might also be asking. A less important question, but still a very interesting one to say the least. So good on you for saying something. I'm proud of you. But let's focus on the story at hand. All right, let's not focus on my inability to tell a proper story. What had happened over the next hour? And I'm not even joking. The next hour was I was standing outside my store, just waiting for this damn Uber. I'm waiting for a response every like 2 minutes. I'm just sending him a message like, "Hey, are you close? Are you there? Hello? Hi? You know I'm a thing, right? You're supposed to come and get me. Like, this isn't. I'm not being like punked or something." Like every few minutes, I'd send him like I could see you, or I'd just be joking around and be like, oh yeah, you're right over there. I could totally see you, but obviously I couldn't see shit. But yeah, so I'm just sitting there, waiting as people do, and eventually my phone is notoriously shitty. It dies so fast. It isn't even funny. It is kind of funny actually. I don't understand the purpose of this thing, by the way, for those of you watching the game. But regardless, alright? So we get to a point where my phone is pretty low on battery. And by say pretty low, I mean like it's like 10%. It's going down pretty fast. And I'm like, okay, well, we're approaching the end here. I really hope that someone frickin' comes for me. And at this point, he's like, on my way. He finally sends a message that he's on his way. Do I believe him? No, because as I'm looking at this stupid guy in his stupid car, he's not making his way here at all. He isn't getting anywhere close. He's just doing his thing. Just driving around the same spot over and over and over again. I'm like, why? What is the benefit of you screwing me here? There just isn't any. I don't understand. Doesn't make sense. But little do I know at that point. And at this point I'm just like, alright, my phone, listen. I'm either going to have to walk home or I'm gonna have to stay here and wait for this, because what ends up happening is my phone fucking dies. And at this point I've kind of made up my mind that I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait here. I'll wait until like 1 in the morning, if until for this guy to show up, because I get very stubborn for some things. It's very like stagnant and kind of just there's no like rhyme or rhythm to what things I get stubborn about. But I was very just I just didn't want this guy to feel like I was gonna give up for reasons I don't quite understand. But I was like, I ain't giving up. No, he's crazy. He thinks he can just. I'm not freaking gonna quit. Cause then he's gonna get his stupid money probably. I don't know how Uber works. He probably got like a huge bonus because he's been waiting so long. Even though I'm the one that's been waiting. I don't know. I don't know how Uber works. But freaking, I text my brother and I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna. My phone's about to die. If you don't see me in the next like half hour, you'll see me tomorrow in the afternoon. So I'm gonna be here. We'll be waiting here for this dang car. And he's like, oh, well, I could get you one. And I didn't see that message because by the time I finished sending that message, my phone went and it just completely shut itself off. Because of course it did. As, you know, luck would have it. And so I not only, at this point, have no connections to my family or, you know, friends who could maybe just be like someone to just fucking rant to. No music. I'm just alone without even being able to communicate to this damn Uber driver now. Because my phone is dead. So I can only hope that the order even still is through. Because I have no idea if the order stays through. If, like, you know, your frickin' phone dies, does it stay? I don't know. I didn't know. And I stood there for probably, what was another like 20-30 minutes, just waiting for a car to show up and just drive by. And as luck would have it, one does. My Uber, like an hour later from when he was even supposed to show up, comes in, drives in, and at this point, I'm ready to just scream at him. Just absolutely like, okay, hey, asshole, you finally made it? Yeah, I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to see you here, buddy. But you know what? You know what happens? I get in that car. There's someone else in there. It's his wife with a dog. Just a small dog. And I'm like, what? I'm just so flabbergasted by seeing another person in the front with a dog. And I just don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. And I'm just sitting there, just kind of like, oh, what is happening? And he's like, yeah, you know, sorry, I took a little longer. A little longer, might I add you. A little longer. It was not a little longer. Dude had me waiting a million years for that damn car. But what his excuse was, oh, you know, around the area I was, you just kept getting notifications for more people, and I was like, oh, I guess this gotta be my destiny right here, you know, people need me on here. I'm like, that's cool. You know who else needed you? Me, like an hour ago. Didn't say that, because at that point I was just like, yeah, because I'm still just flabbergasted about what the situation is. There's just one guy who smells absolutely rancid next to this lady who probably smells equally as rancid. One of them smelled rancid. It might have been the dog, but the dog looked nice. The dog looked clean. I'm not gonna hate the dog. The dog wasn't the enemy of the story. It's this damn driver and his wife. And I don't understand. Why did you bring what is? I don't know whose idea it was at that point. Because they were both just like, oh yeah, you know, there's just so many people over there who needed like a car, and I'm like so. And the thing is, what hit me was like, oh, so they're using two different services at the same time, because how it works with Uber or whatever other, I'm assuming other services, is you can only have one like ride set, you know, you can't. Oops, like you can't have multiple rides going at the same time for one service. So this guy's using like Uber and Lyft or something to essentially just double the amount of options he can get. But he just sort of left me on the back burner while he dealt with everyone else. I don't know why. I don't know what his thought process was there. I don't know if he thought, oh, this guy seems nice. He'll just be okay with me saying I'll get there at 10 and I actually show up like 11:15. He'll be fine. He's only been just hoping that I show up. And at some point I got super desperate. I was like, it's so cold. Please, I just want to go home. Nothing. But, eventually he said something. But then my phone died and I couldn't figure out what if he'd even be showing up. And he shows up and he plays like, oh, there was just so many cars, there's so many rides I needed to do over there. Everyone really needed me over there. I couldn't come over here to help you, who I freaking said yes to at 9:30. So really, he said yes to me like 2 hours ago at that point. And I just couldn't believe it. Just couldn't believe it. It was ridiculous. I didn't, believe it or not, didn't tip that guy. Believe it or not. I didn't expect that story to take so long to say. But I have 4 more, and 2 of them are like pretty long, about equally as long, if not longer. So we'll try to speed them up, but, how I tell stories is very different from how most people probably tell stories, which means that I just get sidetracked and forget what I'm saying half the time. So I just kind of ramble in a long sentence. That time I knew what I was doing though, so you can't blame it on that. But second story. So there was, I guess we'll do a shorter one. There was one lady. It was me and my older sister, and we were coming home from somewhere or whatever, somewhere. I honestly have no idea where we were, but we were coming home, and there was a lady who it was like Buffalo Wild Wings, I think. Yeah, it was also Walmart because that was the day I went to get my Nintendo Switch. It was like in December, like before Christmas. So this is a while ago, but I remember it specifically because as we were, getting the car, I see the person, and on the thing it says like speaks a second language, or like English is a second language, or like speaks a second language. And me and my sister were joking that they're learning the second language as they're driving. So like, like as they're freaking driving people, they're like on like fucking Duolingo or something. They're asking like people like what words mean. And I shit you not, we get into that car. And we start talking, because, it's me and my sister. Obviously, we're going to talk during a car ride. It's like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And we're saying something about freaking, I don't even remember what. What was the word? I don't remember the word, but there was a word that we said. And the lady was like, what does that mean? I'm trying to learn as I go. And I'm like, are you serious? We just joked about this. But the main thing was because this same lady kept referencing, or at least telling me, that I should become an actor. Not because of my skills in acting or singing or whatever, but because I have the hair for it. For those of you who don't know, I have very curly red hair. It looks awesome. I'm telling you right now. That is the peak of my existence, is this damn hair. You'll never see until I get a webcam, which that's not a priority for me. Sorry. But yeah. They just kept going. And I'm like, hey, like throughout the entire thing, you could be an actor. I mean, I'm serious. Like, like that Aquaman guy, you could do like what he does. I'm like, no, but thank you. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing that, but there's no way I could do it. That's just not in the cards for me. I do not have nearly as much skill to do anything like that. But I've always wanted to try it, and I handed acting. But I know it would go terrible, so I've not actually tried. But yeah, I can't remember the word. That's gonna bug me so much. Stereotypical. I think it was like a stereotype or cliche. It was cliche. Yeah, because we were talking about how like so many movies have like their own cliches, like romance stories and stuff. And like, what is cliche? And we were like stumped because you're like, what is cliche? Because we always say the word, but we don't know what it means. We couldn't exactly think of a definition like on the spot. We were like, do we know English? But yeah, so that's one. That was a fun one. It was more of a fun one than the last one. But then we can talk about one that was very fun. Now, this was a family-ish outing. Me, my sisters, and my mom wanted to go to Goodwill because we like to just browse a store with a bunch of random crap in it and just kind of see what we can buy. Something that looks cool, something that looks stupid. We'll do anything. We'll get anything. We don't care. But we for whatever reason, left it up to my sister, my twin sister, to figure out the directions to this Goodwill because they were the one who mainly wanted to go. So I guess we kind of expected them to have it all planned out. We're, okay, cool. So we call an Uber. I'm sure it's a big one because there's 4 of us. And luckily, this guy is nice enough to let someone in the front seat, I think. Or maybe they weren't. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. Yeah, because freaking they had something in the front, and everyone was squished in, and my older sister was like super smushed into the door, and at one point like just kind of had to like move, shift around. It was a whole mess trying to get us all to fit in this damn car. But regardless, we were in a car at one point or another. And there was this guy, super nice guy, super funny guy, just a really general nice time, and like being in that guy's Uber. I love that guy. And this guy, we took him on a journey, I tell ya, to cross the seas, cross all 7 of them. What had happened first was we give the directions, we give the address, obviously, because that's how Uber works. You get an address and you have the address already put in, and then they take you there. So my sister set up the Uber, set him up for the Goodwill donation place, center, whatever. A Goodwill donation center. And we get driving, and freaking the guy is like, I didn't know there was a Goodwill over here. And we're like, oh yeah, apparently, yeah. I mean, like Google said it, like it was there on the maps. So we're, hey, let's go. It was fairly close, but it wasn't too close. But we pull into the shopping center area, all the while just having a blast talking to this guy. Seriously nice guy. I wish I remembered what his name was, but I'm glad I kind of don't, because then I would probably say it accidentally and then kind of. But I don't want. Yeah. Either way, so. We get into that area of the shopping center-ish place, and he starts driving around looking for this Goodwill, and we're not seeing it. He's not seeing it. No one's seeing it. And we're all just like, what if we just keep turning and like checking around these things? 'Cause it's kind of like a mess in a sense, because there's a bunch of just random bits and bobbles and stores and wobbles and flobbles just around, and we keep going around and around and around. We don't find it, and at one point, my mom's like, "Hey, what if you go into the grocery store and ask them, where the Goodwill is, so that way we can, shove off." And then they also got out to stretch their legs. My mom specifically. My sister stayed in the car, but. And so I'm like, alright, yeah, sure. So I went out and into the store, and we're like, hey, where's the Goodwill around here? Like, where the Goodwill is. And the lady looks at me with just as if I'm an idiot. And just like, yeah, there's one like a few miles down, but there's not one over here. I'm like, why does it say there is on Google? And they're like, well, is it just a donation center thing here? And we're like, what? What does that mean? Apparently, something I didn't know, and none of us know, the donation center isn't actually, a thing. It's just, well, not like, it's a thing, but it's not like a store. It's just like a mailbox sort of thing that they put the donations into that then get shipped to Goodwill. So we sent this guy, and we it's been like half an hour at this point. We in the drive, and we just have this guy going to Goodwill, only to realize there is no Goodwill. at our destination. We are going the completely fricked up wrong way. Big time. And we're just like, oh, well, we just wasted this guy's time and also ours. Um, and we're like, if you want, we can just cancel and get someone else to take us there. But he's like, no, it's okay. Well, I'll take you. Yeah, because I mean, like, hey, you just gotta change the location, and then we'll be fine. It might be a little extra fee, but as long as you're okay with that, we're like, you know what? Yeah, that works. And so as we are hopping in to the car, this guy who's just kind of like, oh yeah, like pretty hopped up and ready to go, because he's having fun. You know, we're all having a good time, just kind of being like, just being lost together. It was very fun, a very fun experience. But this is okay. Sorry, but as we are about to leave, so I get back in the car, and my mom is like holding on to the door, about to get in. The guy just starts driving, but like not like super fast. Like he's about to like start moving, and so he like just barely, but like he does, like just like drives over my mom's foot as she's trying to get into the car. And she's just like, because the door wasn't even closed, so I don't know why he decided, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just start driving. This seems smart and sensible. You know, to drive right now, this very moment. Yeah, let's go. Put her in third gear. But yeah, he starts driving and just freaking starts running over my mom's foot. And he's going fairly slow, so you can kind of just hear the agony. Just going like, all right, but like not like that, obviously. Well, it's dialed down, but I'm not good at fake screaming. But yeah, like she was pretty like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, you're on my foot, you're on my foot. Just move, 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 and he's just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And we're like, oh my god, like, everyone is freaking out. No one's freaking out less than my mom, though. He's like, get the car off me at this point. And we're just like, do we go back or do we go forward? And at this point, it's like more forward than backward. But like, oh, if you back up, so then she's like, no, forward. So it's just kind of just rumbling over her foot the entire time. So like, her foot's under this guy's car for like at least 30 seconds, and it's just constantly being rumbled and schwumbled around. And you finally get it off of her foot, and she like checks her like instead of getting into the car immediately, she goes to check if her like boot got scuffed or anything. And while that's happening, I look to the guy who's driving us, and he just has his head in his hands, like, "Oh my god, what have I done? What is my day? I'm gonna get sued. This is, oh my god, oh my god!" Like he looks so panicked. I felt so bad for this guy, because he's just trying to Uber us. He's trying to be nice. He's trying to help us out. And he runs over my mother's foot. And she gets into the car. And she obviously, our family is pretty notorious for just making jokes of everything. So despite the absolute like hell that just happened, my mom's just like, oh, that was great. You know, honestly, I mean, like, I'm just happy, like, my boot didn't get scuffed. I mean, that honestly felt really nice. My foot has not felt better in years. We're just all laughing about that. But apparently she was serious, because she was mentioning that. Like, whenever we bring up that story, like, my foot never felt better. Like, that pressure was just exactly what it needed, and it needs it again. And we're just like, Mom, no. Like, just no. But it's the funniest thing. Just the dude runs over. So yeah. So and then the freaking Goodwill's a fair bit away, but you know we get there, and then you know we freaking he lets us out. You know he makes sure we're a pretty good ways away before he keeps driving, and then he just drives away like any Uber would. And yeah, so it was just such a delightful time to be around. You had to be there, because the way my mom reacted and the way we all reacted on top of that, and then the way everyone, the way the guy, the look on that guy's face, you can see in the mirror while his head was in his hands, just completely freaking out, his eyes bugging out of his head. I will never not be able to see that. Like, that is so funny. I hope that guy's doing all right. But yeah, so that was that story. And that's probably like my favorite of this list. There is one more that's like fairly big, like about as big of a story, but that's definitely like number one, like complete fucking disaster of Uber. But it was a very fun one. We had a good time. The entire like it maybe took us like an hour to get to that Goodwill, but the entire hour was just action filled, fun, good time living. You know. There was also an Uber. So this is the second to last story that I have written down anyway. There's this weird guy, very weird guy, who we got a couple times actually, and he would just he was very like more prone to like talking and communicating with my twin sister more than either of us in the car. And I usually sat in the front seat while my sister sat in the back whenever we were there, because he'd let us sit in the front seat so we wouldn't get squished. And yeah, he seemed nice at first, but it was very clear that he just kept getting weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder. And he just started like openly trying to like hit on my sister. And the dude's like not even like around our age. He's like a good like probably a good 20, 30 years on us. And it was just a very fucking weird guy. And yeah, so yeah. And at one point he like is like, "Hey, can I speak to you alone when we get to our house?" And then he just talks to her and then just kind of fucked off because she was obviously like, "No, go away." And then we just immediately just tried everything we could to make sure we never got that guy again. Because at some point he was like, I always look on my thing waiting for one of you guys to need a car so I can come pick you up. Like, that is so creepy. He was like waiting for us. He would wait for like us, specifically like my sisters, to like need a car so that way he can be there. This is just the creepiest thing. And he said that as if it was like a thing where we were supposed to be like, "Oh, that's nice." Like, what do you want me to say to that? That's just creepy. Like, no one thought that was a nice thing that you just did or said. That's just weird. Some Ubers are weird, man. Once I started using Uber, I was expecting more and more people like that. But then as I started using Uber more and more, I was like, oh, yeah, everyone on there is actually pretty nice and pretty chill and pretty tame. Except for that guy. That's definitely the worst Uber I think I've had just ever. And that brings us to our last point, our last story, which is, I mean, honestly, it's a doozy. So, let me set some stuff up here. So, me and my sisters, we're going to the Walmart. Alright, because Walmart's cool. And after Walmart, we wanted to go to Barnes and we didn't go to Walmart that day. Sorry, I'm setting up the wrong story. Let me reset the story for you. Let me reset the stage. Lights go on. Lights flicker. Spotlight on me. Our story begins on I don't know what day it was. Okay, I'm not doing this well. But yeah, so we wanted to go to Barnes and Noble because they like books. I like board games. Perfect combo. Perfect place to go. So we figured it was the perfect getaway resort treat. Exactly what we needed. And we were like, hey, let's go. So we set up a time. We get an Uber. He shows up, which is surprisingly unexpected. Because around this point, we were getting a lot of Ubers that just like either canceled or would say they would come and then they just wouldn't, and they'd cancel like super late into the drive or super early, or we just would have to wait a million years to actually get an Uber. Never fun times. It happens a lot less nowadays. Still happens sometimes, but either way. So we get this guy. I don't remember his name. I'm glad I don't remember his name because he was a piece of work. Let me tell you, this guy. He seemed alright at first. But along the road, we felt like a very big, like, thud. They go, boom, and it's like it didn't feel like it was like it's a normal like something hit the wheel. Like it felt like we hit something like the middle of his car. And like a minute or two after that, his car, like he just pulls over to the side, and we think he's just pulled over because he thinks we're there or something. We're like halfway to the Barnes and Noble at that point, which is like a good like 10-minute, 15-minute drive from our house, which means it would take like an hour or two, depending on how fast we're walking to get back home. Depending, or the route we had to take, whatever. But it was mostly road where we live, so it would be very difficult to get back very easily. And he pulls his car over, and we're like, "What happened?" And he gets out of the car, and he checks. He's trying to like look at his car, under his car, and I kind of like look behind to like see outside the back window. There is like a noticeable like streak of like oil or gas or something leaking out of this guy's car. His car he didn't pull over. He broke down in the middle of driving us to Barnes and Noble. And he gets out to check, and he gets back in the car, and he's like, "You guys have to cancel." And we're like, "What?" And if you don't take Ubers, what happens when you cancel is that you get charged a fee, depending on how long you've made them wait, or how long they've driven you, or how long they've been driving to you when you cancel. And all a bunch of factors. But essentially, the more time you invest into this ride, the more expensive it is to cancel it. And this guy drove in like 20 minutes to get us, and we just drove in like 10-15 minutes there. So it was like half an hour's worth of potential like refund, charge, whatever. So we don't want to do that. We're like, no, we're not. Like, what do you mean, dude? You what? How? He's just insisting that we like get it refunded and we get our own car back, essentially. And we're like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Like, can't you do something? Because you're the Uber guy? And he's like, no. He just straight up said no. And we're like, oh. Well, I guess he can't, because why would he lie? Why would he just strand us in the middle of nowhere? But believe it or not, that's exactly what he wanted to do. And so after a good bout of just, like, trying to get him to cancel it so we don't have to cancel it, he's like, oh, I can't cancel it. But then, of course, he can cancel it, and he does cancel it. And at that point, we're just like, okay, well, I guess we'll just get out and try to get another car. And we try, 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 and we don't get jack shit. That was good timing. But, yeah, we don't get a single car while we're waiting. And keep in mind, like, this isn't, like, next to some sidewalk or some, like, nice ground where, like, it's pretty easy to just, like, set up and, like, walk around. It's on the middle. It's, like, it's pretty much the middle of a street with, like, a single fucking house nearby. And then there's just a bunch more street going both ways. And this is where we are forced to chill for a while, waiting for a car. Just in the middle of a street, middle of nowhere. And, I mean, the funniest bit of this story is there's two things. The main thing was that at some point, because obviously his car broke down, so he needed a way home, he called a friend or somebody who came to pick him up. Because we see a car drive by, and we're like, I wonder who that is. And they stop, and we're like, oh, that's interesting. And then the frickin' Uber driver comes out of his car, which he's just been sitting in the entire time to avoid making as much contact with us as possible. And he goes into that guy's car. And the way he decides to leave is by doing like a huge U-turn, like, towards us, and we see him and his friend in his stupid car as he drives away. And then he winds up going back the other way. So we get to see him twice as he just leaves, like he's doing a victory lap around us. Like, haha, I have a car, you don't, see you suckers. Like, what the hell? Like, what the actual hell? It was just such a bizarre experience. The dude just freaking, his car breaks down, and then he just strands us in the middle of nowhere with his dumb deadbeat car, and then he leaves. He just leaves. He doesn't make sure that we get safe or like we get another Uber or something. He just up and leaves. And freaking, and we left at like maybe 2 p.m. At this point, it was like hitting like 3:30. We're just waiting for a car. Because at that point, we just wanted to go home, if anything. We didn't even care about Barnes & Noble. We just wanted to go home. And at that point, a guy comes out of the house that we are near. The only house nearby. Our solace. What we've been using to get the Ubers to show up. Because we can't just give them a random... Like, we could, I guess, just use our location. But we figured it'd be easier if we gave him, like, an address. So we got this guy's address from his house. And we went, okay, this is where we are. We're standing here. This is where you'll pick us up. Please, 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 please pick us up. And the guy comes out of his house. He's like, and we expect him to be like, you know, hey, are you guys okay? Like, is that, like y'all just been bound here for a while. We just figured he would, like, somewhat care about the situation. Which he did. Just not in a way that, you know, meant anything. His first question was, is that your car? Did you guys did your car break down? And we're like, no, that's our Uber's car who broke down. He just kind of left us here, and we're trying to get another Uber. We've been waiting for a while, and the dude is like, oh, well, do you think you can do it somewhere else? My wife's gonna be home soon. And all three of us look at each other like simultaneously, like, is this fucker for real? He is kicking us off of the street near his lawn because his wife's coming home. In what universe did that make sense? Like, what did we... Like, it's not like we were doing anything. Like, was he afraid his wife was gonna assume he was having a freaking orgy with a bunch of freaking... I don't even know how old we were, freaking 19-year-olds? 19, 20-year-olds? Like, what is the thought process? It just doesn't make sense. He's just, like, I don't understand. The dude was just like, just leave. He literally was like, leave. My wife's coming home. You can't be here. And it was just, I had nothing to say. I didn't before, and I still don't, because I'm just like, what? We are just people who are just so unlucky to get a car that broke down on us, and this is the one spot that we kind of have as an anchor, so we can at least try to figure out what we're supposed to do from here. But no, it's being taken away from us by this guy whose wife was coming home soon, so we couldn't be stranded here. We had to go get stranded somewhere else. So we were like, alright, well, guess we'll just walk this way for a while. And so we walk. And we walk, and we walk, and we walk for a couple hours until we eventually notice, like, hey, if we walk this way, we can go towards a grocery store that's over there, and then maybe we can, you know, get a car from said grocery store. Maybe people will actually show up. Because keep in mind, the entire time we're walking, we're trying the Uber, but no one even cares to look at us. You know, to them, we're just some freaking hitchhikers putting up our thumbs, like, hey, look at us, we're over here, hello. It's just so stupid. We found some funny places. There's a cool diner that I kind of wanted to go try, but we decided against it. I decided against it. They were like, if you want to, sure. But I was like, nah, we gotta keep walking. This mood's too down to sit down in that diner, which I think would have actually lightened the spirits a little bit. But, I mean, hey. What can you do? What? But. Make it to the wise. At this point, it's like, it was kind of close to wintertime. So it was dark already. It was like 7, maybe 8 o'clock. We were out for a good, long-ass while, essentially. And, you know, We go into the grocery store. We grab a couple things because, like, hey, we couldn't go to Barnes Noble, so at least you grab like a snack or something. Because we've been walking for the past like freaking 5 hours, and maybe not 5 hours. It may have been. It was probably less than that, but it was just such a long. It went from light to dark, so it was at least like 3 to 4 hours of just walking, which is just. It's fine. In any other situation, it would have been fine. But in this particular situation, where we were stranded by an Uber, who left us next to a spot where the homeowner that's kind of next to the road we were standing on was a little bit like unnerved about the fact that his wife was coming home soon. There were 3 random people with a broken down car next to his house. He was too just afraid of his wife putting some dumb pieces together that weren't even there into a puzzle of nonsense. He's like, hey, you gotta leave, so we had to just keep walking. Like, it was just so ridiculous. And luckily, thank goodness, we go into the store, we get our stuff, we try Uber again, someone picks up, and we get our ass home. And this is the big kicker, the real kick in the hoopla seat for us. We get into the car and we tell this Uber driver our story, because of course we do. It is too absolutely ridiculous to not tell someone about this. So we tell this Uber driver, and like the first thing out of their mouth as a response is, he wasn't supposed to do that. And we're like, what? Because it was kind of like well, yeah, obviously it's a kind of screwed up thing to do, to just leave us there. They're like, no, like, that's not protocol. Like, he's supposed to be able to, like, get you guys a car. He's supposed to, like, contact Uber and say that his car broke down, so that way they can get someone to finish your ride. Because, you're working with Uber, you gotta get the ride. And we just sit there in silence for a good, like, 10-15 seconds, because we're just like, you're joking. There's no way this guy just cheaped out on us and got a hitchhiking ride home from his friend and just drove a victory lap around us only to say, yeah, I could have helped you, and I should have known that I could have helped you, but I didn't want to. No, that was the last straw. We weren't, at that point, we found it more funny than anything, because so much time had passed that whole day. It was just a stupid thing that happened. It was the moment was kind of gone, and it was just a ridiculous series of unfortunate events. But this lady, super nice, thankfully she told us that, because now we get to know for next time, in case we see that asshole again. If I ever see that guy in another Uber, and I definitely remember his face. I don't remember it off instinct, but if I see it, I'll remember it. That's how my memory works. But I'm gonna rip him a new one. That was the worst. Probably, definitely, like, it's up there. It's definitely up there. I don't know which I think is worse. I don't know if I think waiting in the dark for an hour in the cold, freezing weather is worse, or this slightly warmish winter day, which is still fairly cold, where me and my sisters were stranded for several hours, forced to walk because an Uber's car broke down. Like, I feel like there's a little bit more reasoning behind the actions of the Uber driver on the latter story, but the former story just, it doesn't seem nearly as expansive and stupid as this one. But I don't know. I don't know which one I would say is the worst. It was just fucking ridiculous. It was just ridiculous time. But yeah, so those are my crazy Uber stories. I hope that I hope y'all have some too. Let me know. Let me know in the comments below, because I would love to see those. Because everyone's got one Uber story that they tell everybody, and I have 3 specifically. It's definitely the waiting over an hour, the Goodwill mom got her foot run over, and this guy left us on the side of the road. Those are my 3 go-tos. it kind of just depends on which one I remember first. So I definitely don't have a ranking for them, but maybe you guys do. So let me know which one you thought was the weirdest. Let me know what you guys have experienced with Uber, because Uber is a fucking, it's a blessing and a curse, I'll tell you. Oh, but thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Stranded Deep in Conversation, and you have a fantastic, blessed rest of your day. Bye bye now, y'all.